Good morning, afternoon, evening, good night to all of you, my fellow human beings. How are you? Thank you for being here with us here at the Worldview Bros. I'm Sal, and this is my brother Jim, a.k.a. Slippin' Jimmy, a.k.a. Bruggle Baggins, a.k.a. Butterbeard, a.k.a. Edukinator, a.k.a. Discount Shapiro, a.k.a. Jimmy Gungle Buff, and I can't remember the last one you did. Wait. No, one of my favorites now, a.k.a. Jimmy Yagi.
Yeah.
Jim, how you doing?
Good. Hey, thank you for getting most of my names right. You did forget Jimmy Milan.
Jimmy Milan.
Yeah, like Caesar Milan. I'm the dog whisperer.
Dude, man, you're coming up with some great ones. I think that rolls off the tongue. Jimmy Milan.
Yeah. Well, I'm taking care of Andrea's dog, Wrangler.
Yeah.
And
or like Eli says, Wrangler.
Wrangler.
Something weird. Yeah,
man, I got Wrangler is such a good dog. I've been teaching him some tricks. He's he's a cute dog.
That's good. Yeah. No, our dog Penny, she's cute. She's a good one, but she's still a pup, man. Gosh, she's. I was talking a little bit before we started with Jim, and so we have this boxer kind of lab mix, and she's adorable. We get compliments on her all the time because she is just beautiful dog. But,
beautiful.
But man, she's got so much energy, and I don't know if it's like just like the regular puppy energy.
Dude, I don't know how you signed up for this thing.
Or I know, right? We're like, it's funny because I think I might have already said this on one, on a previous show, but like when we went to go get her, we were like, we're like justifying it, like, like Eli's probably gonna love it. This is great. This is for Eli, right?
Yeah. And
it was really, really clear and quick, like to realize that this was more for us.
Well, yeah. I mean, it's your responsibility.
Exactly. And it was funny. It's funny because we got there and Eli was like, "Do you want to take a puppy home?" Or no, we asked him, "Do you want to take a puppy home?" And he goes, "No." And I think what we deduced was that he was just not. He was hearing the word home, and he just didn't want to go home because he was having fun looking at all the puppies.
Right.
So
something got lost in translation.
Yeah. So it's funny because you're in that position where you're in front of these people with the dogs, and they're like, are they really about to walk away because their kid just said no and they came all the way here? Like, what losers, right? That's at least what's going through my head.
Oh wow!
If I saw that, I was like, oh yeah, now we know who runs that house.
Yeah, right.
And it's like, I'll show you. I'm gonna buy a puppy from you just to show you that my kid doesn't run this house.
Wow.
I don't know.
Wow.
Now we wanted the puppy. So.
Yeah.
Anyways.
Yeah.
The show today is not all about puppies, guys.
No.
It's not about puppies and I don't know, Wonderland.
No. But I think 2020 needs a little more puppies.
Dude, right? It does, man. It's been hard, man.
I know.
It's been hard ever since the day that I saw Kobe Bryant passed away.
No, yeah.
It's just kind of gone downhill with a lot of things.
Oh yeah, and seriously, I mean, yeah.
So today, guys, we want to address and give our thoughts and statistics and I guess just our 2 cents, on what has transpired here in the last week and a half or so.
Yeah. I mean, we don't shy away from the big questions. That's why we're here. We want to address the big questions. And it doesn't mean we have all the answers. It does mean that we are 100% determined to pursue truth wherever it leads, to pursue goodness wherever it leads, to pursue our common humanity, to pursue a civilization that we can share together, and to pursue the common good.
Yeah, no, definitely. And, guys, we're going to probably double down a lot on the fact that, like, there's no doubt at all that what things like with obviously what sparked all this with George Floyd, like it's terrible what happened to him.
Of course,
terrible. And we're gonna mention that several times. because I don't want that to be misconstrued. And I think with a lot of people, when they have contrarian opinions to what the media says and what we're seeing a lot, that lots of times that gets taken in the direction that his life doesn't matter, right? So, anyways, before we get right into it, we're gonna Jim, you're gonna take it away for us. I want you guys to follow us on Twitter, on Instagram. Okay, we're still tweeting out tweets of beauty, guys. Grams of beauty.
Right.
100 grams of beauty. Okay, remember to hashtag the Worldly Bros. Hashtag 100 grams of beauty. If you see something beautiful, go ahead and do that hashtag so we can see it. If you have any questions, concerns, you want to talk to us, send us an email at theworldlybros@gmail.com. All right, Jim, let's get right into it.
Yeah,
okay?
No, Sal and guys, you hear me talk about sometimes about political philosophy and what political philosophy is about. And the key goal of political philosophy is to move the state, to move the government towards true justice, as opposed to conventional justice. This is the lesson that we get from the classics. Move towards true justice as opposed to conventional justice, or what the opinion of justice is. And to do so with an eye, what makes a political philosophy is that we do so with an eye on the preservation of society. You see, to improve a building, you may have to take a hammer and saw to the foundations. But that, of course, carries the risk that the whole thing could collapse, or at least that you end up with a building that is worse off because of your attempt to tinker with it.
Right, yeah.
So statesmanship requires two things: that you have the gifts and talents to promote improvement in the right way, but also, and much more importantly, that you have the right vision in the first place, that you are clear on what true justice is in the first place, or in which direction, at least, we may tend towards true justice. Now, when it comes to what has transpired in the last week and a half, here's what I don't need to tell you. Here's what we don't need to tell you or to try to convince you: that the killing of George Floyd was horrible and infuriating. It was. Now, I firmly believe that the vast majority of Americans, and I mean more than 90% of them, or whatever the number might be, are filled with righteous anger when they see that video.
Yeah.
So I talk about moving the state towards a truer vision of justice. I think that the vast majority of Americans will be in agreement if we say that the goal is to ensure that the justice system be non-discriminatory against Black Americans, and also that we place greater safeguards against police brutality. And we want to talk further about those goals in a minute, but the point I want to make now is that I doubt that any significant number of people disagree with these ends. So why is it? This is my question. Why is it that there's so much finger pointing and bile and hatred on the usual suspects, on Twitter, on Facebook, on the news? Okay, this is where we have to address the issue of the protests and the riots. I think a very typical Facebook post in the last week or so has been something to the effect of, "How dare you speak out against the riots when you did not speak out against the killing of George Floyd?" And then it's like, your silence about the latter is telling of what a scumbag of a human being you are. And look, things like that, I think positions like that are infantile. I mean, I'm sorry, to put it kindly, this is a misguided rhetoric that falls into the trap of projecting nefarious ends to people with whom you disagree politically, or nefarious ends to someone who might disagree on the means of how they want to achieve a certain goal. And again, my point is that the vast majority of Americans agree on what the goal would be, but then they emphasize different aspects of it. It's an insult to a person's moral character to say that if you didn't, say the right thing or post something or that you're then a terrible human being. I mean, let me give you an example. Let's say one of your aunts did that. We know we all have our aunts. All our aunts are on Facebook, right? They post every day, right? Let's say their aunt posts something like, "Stop these riots." And she hadn't sacrificed first to the Church of Woke by posting about George Floyd first, or by putting up a black square or a circle square, whatever it is, a black circle. I bet I had some aunts that I bet we have aunts, Sal, that fall into that category, right? Mm-hmm. Do we really think that our aunt is racist scum if she says something about stop the riots? Of course not. I mean, how about they didn't post about Floyd because it's obvious that was an evil, and yet it is apparently not obvious to everyone that rioting is a bad thing as well, and they're posting stop the riots because the riots are going on now and possibly the next day and the day after that. Whereas George Floyd is already tragically dead. May he rest in peace. Do you see what I'm saying?
Yeah, I mean, and I look, I do get it. I get it. I even find it very encouraging that everybody's fired up about this.
Yeah,
I know I am. Because it means that we have a hunger for true justice. That maybe we're not an apathetic country, narrowly interested in our creature comforts.
Oh, right.
You guys know that this is where I live. I mean, the most interesting question to me is, how do we live here now in light of the unquenchable thirst of the human spirit for goodness and truth? And so what we want to do in today's show is address two things, guys. So it's first, can we agree that the spirit of rioting and spirit of hatred and this finger pointing that we're talking about, that we're seeing in social media, and all those different avenues is something that we have to decry and give up if we want to make any progress whatsoever in addressing the ills of our society. And the second thing is we want to spend some time trying to identify the nature of the ills and propose what direction we might be able to take it in. Right?
Yeah, what is the problem?
Yeah, what is going on, right? What is the problem? So the first point, okay, we're saying that what we have observed in the last week is people going to those foundations we talked about, and not just taking a hammer and saw to those foundations of civil society, but taking dynamite and flamethrowers to them. Right? So, like, what does that look like? It looks like this. As of last Tuesday, when we compiled the data, 17 people have lost their lives during the rioting. 3 of them by armed civilians protecting themselves and their property from looters,
right? As
they have the right to. Mm-hmm. 3 by the police themselves in their attempt to control the riots, and of the rest, some are confirmed to be from the rioters, while others we can't say 100% for certain. Mm-hmm. Okay. We know that one Las Vegas police officer was shot in the head while trying to disperse a crowd, mm-hmm. and he's currently on life support. Mm-hmm. We know that a 77-year-old police captain, David Dorn, who's incidentally black, was killed by a looter at a pawn shop. Mm-hmm. Just so sad. And I'm looking at the data here, and hundreds of cops have been injured. Many very seriously and are hospitalized. Mm-hmm. You have that heartbreaking video of Jasmine Kelly, posted about her sister, Italia, shot by a protester.
Let's take a look at that here.
I'm waiting for everyone to get on, so I hope y'all know what the you did. My sister is gone, and it's not from a cop. It wasn't from no cop. I don't get on live, and I don't care about this Facebook but my sister is gone because one of you, a protester, shot my sister. A protester, not even the police, because you guys, I lost my sister.
I mean, this is bad, guys. I know many of you may say, we know it's bad. You don't need to tell us that the riots are bad. But I mean, the problem is that too many in the media and apparently many of our acquaintances are making the point that they may be bad, but it's necessary. Like, it's a necessary part of what is needed to bring about change. That's what we object to. We think this is obviously wrong and misguided. I mean, Martin Luther King brought about real change with the spirit of peace and brotherhood. And it's only with that spirit that we can move forward from here. And look, don't take it from us. We have also seen some very positive voices. I want us to listen briefly to some of these voices of reason. First, I think very important was the mayor of Atlanta, Keisha Bottoms. Also, Councilman Jeff Pastor. and George Floyd's own brother, Terrence Floyd.
Yeah.
Also, a video that I found very interesting was from Killer Mike. Did you see that one?
That was really good. Yeah.
Yeah. And look, their message is essentially the same, a few differences, and we're going to talk more about it. But their message is this, that we may not countenance political reform if it's going to start in this violent way. We need peace first, that there may be clarity and reason. And then we can take it from there, okay? Now, these 4 people are black. And you shouldn't need to be black to state this truth. But here we are, okay? So let's roll the tape here. So again, first is Keisha Bottoms. She's the mayor of Atlanta.
And when I saw the murder of George Floyd, I hurt like a mother would hurt. And on yesterday, when I heard there were rumors about violent protests in Atlanta, I did what a mother would do. I called my son and I said, "Where are you?" I said, "I cannot protect you, and black boys shouldn't be out today. So you're not going to out-concern me and out-care about where we are in America. I wear this each and every day, and I pray over my children each and every day. So what I see happening on the streets of Atlanta is not Atlanta. This is not a protest. This is not in the spirit of Martin Luther King Jr. This is chaos. A protest has purpose. When Dr. King was assassinated, we didn't do this to our city. So if you love this city that has had a legacy of black mayors and black police chiefs and people who care about this city, where more than 50% of the business owners in Metro Atlanta are minority business owners. If you care about this city, then go home.
Just to protect the cops, but it was just to protect the people. And what I can't understand is that this is Cincinnati police. This is not Minneapolis police. And what they're doing is just absolutely horrendous. As a member of city council, this is my first time ever seeing something like this. When this first happened in 2001, I was only 17 years old, right? I can't understand for the life of me what is going on right now in the city of Cincinnati. And I'm going to be here until these folks and the other folks are protected. Let me tell you something. There are people down here who are encouraging 14-year-old kids. These babies are 14 years old, man, and they're encouraging them to throw bottles at these cops. And these grown people are encouraging our babies to fight. This is not their fight. And I will give a how mad or angry you are with what is happening with the police. But these 15-year-old kids have nothing to do with this, man. And these cops, black cops, white cops, or whatever like that, they did not do anything. And I'm not here to take one side or the other, but what I'm suggesting to the people of Cincinnati is that what type of success are you going to have with attacking these people that have nothing to do with this? And what I'm saying is that you got people down here who are literally encouraging kids to attack cops. You're encouraging the kids to attack cops, and they're using Emmett Till. They're using Martin Luther King to justify why these 14 and 15-year-old kids should be out here. These are former students of mine. You see what I'm saying? I am imploring that before this pops and this gets bad, they're throwing bricks. They just threw a brick at the cops. It's wrong. I'm telling you, it's wrong. And I'm so nervous and I'm so scared for these kids. These are kids. There are kids around. There are kids across the street who live downtown in City West, and these people are out here encouraging them. And as an elder in the African-American community, if any African-American is encouraging these 14 and 15-year-old kids to be out here, they're wrong. That's wrong. These cops didn't do anything to George Floyd. This is wrong. I don't care how you see it. It's wrong.
Thank you.
And sorry for cussing.
I understand y'all upset. But like it was already said, I doubt y'all half as upset as I am.
Come on now. Speak.
So if I'm not over here wilding out, if I'm not over here blowing up stuff, if I'm not over here messing up my community, then what are y'all doing? What are y'all doing? Y'all doing nothing. Because that's not going to bring my brother back at all. It may feel good for the moment, just like when you drink. But when it comes down, you're going to wonder what you did.
That's right. So true.
My family is a peaceful family. My family is God-fearing. Yeah, we upset. But we're not going to take it. We're not going to be repetitious. In every case of police brutality, the same thing has been happening. Y'all protest, y'all destroy stuff, and they don't move. You know why they don't move? Because it's not their stuff, it's our stuff. So they want us to destroy our stuff.
Come on, Doc.
They're not going to move. So let's do this another way. Let's do this another way.
I didn't want to come, and I don't want to be here. I'm the son of an Atlanta City police officer. My cousin is an Atlanta City police officer, and my other cousin, East Point police officer. And I got a lot of love and respect for police officers, down to the original 8 police officers in Atlanta that even after becoming police had to dress in a YMCA because white officers didn't want to get dressed with niggers. And here we are 80 years later. I watched a white officer assassinate a black man. And I know that tore your heart out. And I know it's crippling. And I have nothing positive to say in this moment because I don't want to be here. But I'm responsible to be here because it wasn't just Dr. King and people dressed nicely who marched and protested to progress this city and so many other cities. It was people like my grandmother, people like my aunts and uncles who were members of SCLC and NAACP, and in particular, Reverend James Orange, Mrs. Alice Johnson, and Reverend Love, who we just lost last year. So I'm duty-bound to be here to simply say that it is your duty not to burn your own house down for anger with an enemy. It is your duty to fortify your own house so that you may be a house of refuge in times of organization. And now is the time to plot, plan, strategize, organize, and mobilize. It is time to beat up prosecutors you don't like at the voting booth. It is time to hold mayoral offices accountable, chiefs and deputy chiefs. Atlanta is not perfect, but we're a lot better than we ever were, and we're a lot better than cities are. I'm mad as hell. I woke up wanting to see the world burn down yesterday because I'm tired of seeing black men die. He casually put his knee on a human being's neck for 9 minutes as he died like a zebra in the clutch of a lion's jaw. And we watch it like murder porn over and over again. So that's why children are burning to the ground. They don't know what else to do. And it is the responsibility of us to make this better right now. We don't want to see one officer charged. We want to see 4 officers prosecuted and sentenced. We don't want to see targets burning. We want to see the system that sets up for systemic racism burnt to the ground. And as I sit here in Georgia, home of Stevens, Georgia, former vice president of the Confederacy, white man said that law, fundamental law, stated that whites were naturally the superior race. And the Confederacy was built on a cornerstone. It's called a cornerstone speech. Look it up. The cornerstone speech that blacks would always be subordinate. That officer believed that speech because he killed that man like an animal. In this city, officers have done horrendous things and they have been prosecuted. This city's cut different. In this city, you can find over 50 restaurants owned by black women. I didn't say minority, and I didn't say women of color. So after you burn down your own home, what do you have left but char and ash? CNN? Ted did a great thing. I love CNN, I love Cartoon Network, but I'd like to say to CNN right now, karma's a mother. Stop feeding fear and anger every day. Stop making people feel so fearful. Give them hope. I'm glad they only took down a sign and defaced a building and they're not killing human beings like that policeman did. I'm glad that they only destroyed some brick and mortar and they didn't rip a father from a son. They didn't rip a son from a mother like the policeman did. When a man yells for his mother in duress and pain and she's dead, he is essentially yelling, please, God, don't let it happen to me. And we watch that. So my question for us on the other side of this camera is after it burns, will we be left with charred or will we rise like a phoenix out of the ashes that Atlanta has always done? So we have an opportunity now because I'm mad. I don't have any good advice. But what I can tell you is that if you sit in your homes tonight, instead of burning your home to the ground, you will have time to properly plot, plan, strategize, and organize and mobilize in an effective way. And two of the most effective ways is first taking your butt to the computer and making sure you fill out your census so that people know who you are and where you are. The next thing is making sure you exercise your political bully power and going to local elections and beating up the politicians that you don't like. You got a prosecutor sent your partner to jail and you know it was bull. Put a new prosecutor in there. Now's your election to do it. You want a different senator that's more progressive, that promotes marijuana through, now is the time to do that. But it is not time to burn down your own home. I love and I respect you. I hate I don't have more to say. I hate I can't fix it in a snap. I hate Atlanta's not perfect for as good as we are. But we have to be better than this moment. We have to be better than burning down our own homes. Because if we lose Atlanta, what else we got?
You know, I don't know anything about Killer Mike. I'm not super big into rap.
I didn't know him either.
But dude, like, what a powerful voice that guy has.
Yeah.
I mean, he's just very captivating.
Yeah.
You notice how he says, I'm glad they only took down a sign and defaced a building and didn't kill a human being like that policeman did. I mean, that's a nuanced point, right? He's saying, of course, breaking windows and looting is not the same as taking a life. But that doesn't mean that you don't call for a stop to those actions that are immediately before us. Now, the reality is that we have had deaths and a multiple of them now as a direct result of these non-so-peaceful protests.
No, exactly. We've seen deaths in the protests, and that is a good point. But the other thing about Killer Mike's speech that I wanted to address is the second point that he makes, and this plays into what we want to get to, which is what is actually behind this. And here's what he said. Like he says, I don't want to see targets burned down. I want to see the system that's set up for systemic racism burned to the ground. And that precisely is the question. Okay, so I agree completely with Killer Mike's take that in order to achieve your goal, it has to be first through peace. Okay.
Yes.
But he's setting up a lofty goal. He's saying that the goal here is to burn down the system to the ground, and that's pretty frightening. I mean,
yeah.
Now that to me is the question. Ultimately, it's the big question behind everything that's happening right now. Okay, and the question is the question that we're posing for the show. Do we have a case of systematic racism in our justice departments?
Yeah.
Okay, and or more broadly, do we have a systematic racism in our nation? Is our nation essentially built on racism? Mm-hmm. Are we fundamentally a racist country? Was our country founded in 1776 or in 1619? Okay, many are saying that that it is 1619, which is when the first ships carrying slaves from Africa made it to American shores. This, of course, is what is being argued in the 1619 Project, that is where the country starts, that the whole history of our nation is undergirded by this rotten root of racism. Now, of course, slavery was present at the very inception of what we call America. It was present literally everywhere in the world. Mm-hmm. Okay, slavery is not an American invention. Are we crazy or something? Yeah. It's not an American invention or a specialty evil of America. It is deeply evil and has been with the world for the vast majority of its history. Yeah. The exception to historical slavery is the interesting part. What's special is not the slavery, but the abolition of slavery. Mm-hmm. And no nation in history has done more for the cause of racial equality than America. I'm sorry. I mean, say what you want. No nation in the world has done more for the cause of racial equality than America. You might say England abolished slavery nationwide before America did. Well, if it's nationwide, sure. Okay, but Vermont, for example, abolished slavery in 1777. That's 56 years before Britain passed its abolition of slavery. I'm not dumping on Britain here. I'm just saying, and by 1804, all of the northern states had either abolished slavery outright or begun a systemic, gradual abolition. Okay. Yeah. Now, what's special about the year 1777? Well, that it's 1 year after 1776, right? Yeah. When the American states made a compact, guys, to become one union, based on the proposition that all men are created equal and that they are endowed by their Creator with certain unalienable rights, that among these are life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, and that to secure these rights, governments are instituted among men, deriving their just powers from the consent of the governed. That's no joke, okay? That is the foundation of our country. It's not that we have a rotten foundation. It's that very often we do not live up to that foundation. Why? Because of America's original sin. And what is America's original sin? It's the same original sin of every nation. Yep. The same original sin, actually, of every person. Do you know what that is? It's original sin, guys. Original sin is our original sin. Yeah. That's what it is. Red, white, or black, we all have it. Okay, the sin is not the part that identifies us, though, because we all have it. What identifies us is the good we can do in spite of it. When you write an obituary for your grandpa, you don't tell everyone about his faults. You don't tell everybody like what a lousy, lazy guy was. Yeah. Okay, we all have faults. That's not special. You talk about the good that he did, because that is what actually makes your grandpa your grandpa. Okay, Killer Mike rightly brings up the Southern Confederacy, for example. He says, and he brings up the cornerstone speech. Right. Did the Confederacy define itself on the cornerstone of slavery? Absolutely it did. Okay, is the Southern Confederacy the true spirit of America? Absolutely it isn't. That's why the Civil War is so important. That's why the Civil War happened. Okay, that's why Abraham Lincoln is the second greatest president in our history, because he was the great preserver of the American founding. Mm-hmm. Okay, and it's a shame that we need soldiers right now to protect the Lincoln Memorial. Yeah. Okay, you talk about great statesmanship. Look, not to go off on a tangent, but I haven't been really pleased with the lack of clear statesmanship from Trump. Honestly, again, I know that's like a lightning rod. That's a tangent. So much of this is completely independent of Trump, for good or ill. Okay, but there's no denying that I wish we had a greater statesman that people could rally around. Right. But anyway. Look, here's the point. The point is that America's foundation is not racist. It is entirely the opposite. Do we really want to say that the state of black Americans today is no different than in 1967 with the Civil Rights Act? No different today than 1865 with the passing of the 13th Amendment abolishing slavery everywhere in the U.S.? No different today than in 1776 when our founding fathers drew a line in the sand establishing the key ideal for our nation, to which we should always strive, okay? Has there been no progress? Look, I get it. I'm not a black man. I understand that, okay? But my question is this. Are we really saying that we have not seen a progression because of the foundation of our country? Now, you might say, Jim Crow laws were instituted after the Civil War. Yeah, absolutely. There were. Guess what? We don't have anymore. Jim Crow laws.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, I mean, like, and obviously we're not saying that racism doesn't exist today.
No.
You know, I'm not saying that we're not saying that we're not still dealing with shockwaves left from the Civil War itself. Mm-hmm. You know, and we're not saying that there aren't ways that we can systematically improve the life of Black Americans who are statistically poor.
Yeah.
You know, what I'm saying, or what we're saying, is that the solution to these problems will not come from uprooting the founding principles of America, but that we can find the solutions precisely there, in that foundation, right? That we have clearly stated here. Mm-hmm. And now you might say, whatever, the Justice Department in the United States is racist and it disproportionately kills Black men, which a lot of people seem to believe this, right? Mm-hmm. But if we just take a step back, we take a step back and we take a sober look at these statistics, it easily proves that the criminal justice system is not at all racist. So, Jim, let's look at these numbers.
Right. I mean, what we compiled, and this is data that's available to everybody. Some of this I got from the Department of Justice website. Some I got from the Washington Post data bank. Mostly looking at the most recent data that we have, like 2019, 2018. But actually, a lot of the data from 2019 going down to 2015 is very stable. Like, what I found looking at the data is pretty remarkable how constant it is over periods of time. And you do have some changes, like going into the 90s and before. But anyway, I'll address that. But here's the thing. So, like, in 2019, police officers shot 1,004 people. So that number is fairly constant. Like, about every year, where we are right now, we're seeing about 1,000 deaths by police officer shootings in a year. About 1,000. Now, of those shootings, the vast majority of the people who were shot, they were armed and dangerous. In other words, it was in situations where the police and the armed suspect had a confrontation. Mm-hmm. Okay, vast majority. This is why you don't hear a lot about these, and you just hear the case of George Floyd and others. So again, of the 1,004 people, 235 were Black. And that particular ratio we're also seeing is pretty stable since 2015. Now, there are 30 million Black Americans in the country. And 30 million Black Americans in the country, that's about 13% of the population. Now, 235 out of 1,000 people, that's not 13%, that's 23%. Now, a shallow argument would say that that's obviously racist because Blacks were 23% of the people killed by cops, not 13%, as per the population. I guess, like, morbidly, if we want to say that it's fair, you know, we would have 13% of people who were killed by cops to be Black, but no, it's 23. Right. Okay. Mm-hmm. But I want you to consider why this is shallow logic. Okay. And look, first of all, the question shouldn't be how many Black people are killed by police, period, but how many Black people are killed by police unjustifiably. Okay. Again, 1,000 people are killed per year by cops. The vast majority of those deaths were justified. And secondly, the ratio we should be looking at should be not relative to the population as a whole, but to the number of encounters that the police will have with people. So in other words, we need to look at crimes committed by race. Okay, police shootings would logically be a function of how many times police officers encounter armed and dangerous suspects. So in 2018, Blacks committed 53% of homicides and 60% of robberies, even though they're only 13% of the population. Again, that ratio is pretty standard. Now, let me pause right there. Okay, is that a problem in our society? That over 50% of homicides and over 50% of robberies in a given year are committed by Black people. Of course, that's a problem. But that is a societal problem. That societal problem shouldn't be laid at the feet of the police officer who is doing his duty when he is called by 911. Mm-hmm. Okay, the whole reason that he's engaged in that confrontation is because they were called. Okay, when we have an armed suspect, for example. The police officer, guys, is the last line of defense for civil society when society at large has failed in other ways. So again, given that Black Americans consistently commit more than 50% of homicides and robberies, it's actually a wonder that the percentage of blacks killed by police officers is significantly and consistently way less than 50%. Okay, if we're looking at the statistics. And look, actually, the real stat that we should be looking at is how many unarmed Black Americans are killed by police each year. In 2019, that number was 9. Okay, not 900, 9. In 2019, the number of unarmed Black Americans that were killed by police was 9. For white Americans, for example, that number was 19. This information in particular I'm getting from the Washington Post data bank. And in there, the Post defines as unarmed, even as an example, a New Jersey man who had a loaded weapon in his car during the police chase. Yeah. And when you even look at the 9, when you even look at those 9, even then you're actually really hard pressed to make the case that they were unjustified. Like in one case, for example, the suspect reached for the police officer's taser. In another case, it was a female police officer, and she was like being pummeled on the ground until she finally shot the man on top of her. But anyway, this is the data. Black people, as we see in this data, are not overrepresented in the group of people who are yearly killed justifiably or unjustifiably by police. In fact, they're underrepresented. Okay, and this is just looking at the raw data on the numbers that matter. Okay, the deaths of people versus police encounters, not the population at large, but the police encounters. Okay, there have been many studies actually that conclude that the criminal justice system is not racist against blacks. Research by a Harvard economist, Roland Fryer, found no evidence of racial discrimination in shootings. There's a 2015 Justice Department analysis of the Philadelphia Police Department found that white police officers were less likely than black or Hispanic police officers to shoot an unarmed black suspect.
You know, and I can see people saying, I believe what I see. And when I see that scumbag Chauvin with his knee on George Floyd, you know, how can you say that doesn't show the system is racist? Mm-hmm. Well, let's say more. Look at the death of Eric Garner. It's almost the exact same situation as with Floyd. Look at Laquan McDonald. Yes, and others too. So we see instances of police brutality. But it's a far cry from a systematic targeting of black Americans. No, I mean, black people are not being hunted down by police. In 2018, we don't have the 2019 stat, but in 2018 there were 7,400 homicides of black people. Okay, if we even grant that all 9 of the 2019 deaths to be unjustifiable killings of racist officers, that would put the percentage at 0.1% of black homicides in the hands of the police.
Right.
Okay. So now we know we know the names of our black brothers and sisters who have died in this way, but there have been more white people who have died from police brutality in greater percentage per their share of violent crimes and encounters with the police.
All right, as opposed to the percentage of the population.
Exactly, yeah. And so I remember the case of Daniel Shaver. It's a horrific video. Yeah. So he was killed in a hallway of a hotel. The officer was shouting at him to come towards him while he was on his knees, right? And so, of course, he's just scared in this position and kind of giving him, the officer is giving him like conflicting instructions as he's crawling. He's crawling towards him, okay? And so his pants, they were kind of baggy and they were getting stuck. And so like when that happens, when your pants are like falling off, you instinctively, you know, just try to grab them. So he does that, and the officer just shoots him. And so the officer was charged with a second-degree murder, but was found not guilty. And part of the problem as to why it seems that the police aren't convicted enough is because the prosecution tends to make the charge too high. And probably because the pressure of the people that, you know, are rightly outraged in these situations. You know what I'm saying?
We saw that with Trayvon Martin as well.
Exactly. You know, and so where does this put us, right? So look, guys, like if the goal is to have a country where we never again see an incident like this one, then I think we're really falling prey to to utopianism, right? There's only so much that can be done to a form of government to make it impartial and just. Okay, so we cannot force ourselves into the hearts of these individuals, right? We can't change these people's hearts and eliminate racism and hatred and just evil. You know, racism and hatred and evil will always be with us as long as we're east of Eden. Right. Now, I do believe that more can be done. I really do. You know, more progress can be made in trying to minimize police brutality. You know, and that's worth protesting about. That's worth marching about, right? And I think it comes down to streamlining and increasing the effectivity of convicting bad cops, dude. It's true that it's hard to even bring prosecution against cops because of the protection that they get from unions.
Oh, right. We talked about that.
Yeah, which this is something we need to do more research on, you know, but there's no question that the protection of the union can have the tendency to give a bad cop a sense of assurance, you know, thus making him more prone to be excessively violent without fear or facing the consequences.
And,
you know what I'm saying? So
and that's a point that I think we can investigate. But look, guys, one final point I wanted to make is, you know, there's one fact in all the facts that we've laid out today that should be disturbing to us. And that, again, is that over 50% of all violent crime in this country is perpetrated by young black males. Okay, ultimately, this is the reason why an apparently disproportionate amount of black people die at the hands of the police. But again, disproportionate in regards to the percentage of black population generally, not in regards to the actual crimes that are committed, as we saw. Now, why is this true? Why do black people commit an extraordinary amount of crime? I would submit to you that this is the problem that needs to be solved. This is the problem. This is a complex sociological problem. And look, like one reason that our politics are what they are is because we think that the principles of the American founding are where we can actually find solutions to these problems, not in the destruction of those principles. Okay, most people who study this carefully know that the question comes down to family life in the black community, in any community. My professor in college, Dr. Thomas G. West, he has the best book out there on this question.
Oh, yeah, you've mentioned it before a lot.
Yeah, and he talks about how the progressive agenda beginning in the late 1800s and coming to its own, like coming to fruition with LBJ's Great Society, that project was anathema to family life for the black community. Okay, and that's something maybe we can address in our next show, perhaps. But I highly recommend that you read West Vindicating the Founders. But largely, the point is that our efforts need to be focused in a different way. Our efforts should be focused on improving conditions for family life and in doing our part to promote loving and peaceful communities.
Yeah.
Okay?
Definitely.
And you know what's a critical ingredient in setting the stage to promote healthy family life and loving communities? Like, can you guys guess, like, who or what is responsible for even setting up the stage that we may have peace and the opportunity to have communities that love each other? Can you guys guess what's a critical ingredient? Okay, would that be the police? Okay, and yet a big element in the protests, as they've materialized, lies in this stupid idea that we should defund the police.
Oh, man.
Okay, and I just read this today. A Minneapolis City Council member, Steve Fletcher, he's tweeting about what it would take to disband the Minneapolis police.
That's insane.
Okay,
That's insane, dude.
And now you have people all over the country saying that we need to defund the police. L.A. Mayor Eric Garcetti, he's now slashed the LAPD budget as a result of what's happened. And this is exactly the wrong thing to do. Okay, we're doing the opposite of what needs to be done. We need a stronger and better police presence, okay? And actually, we just wanted to end with this article by Pastor Corey Brooks. He posted this just, I think, yesterday. Now, Corey Brooks, he's the founder and senior pastor of New Beginnings Church in Chicago. He's also the founder and CEO of Project Hood, Communities Development Corporation. He's a black American, And here's what he says. Martin Luther King famously noted that violence destroys community and makes brotherhood impossible. It leaves society in monologue rather than dialogue. This week's violent looting has produced a deafening monologue. On the south side of Chicago, where I pastor a church and lead a ministry, Project Hood, we're in the business of building dialogue as the way of rebuilding our community. We help build community leaders and equip our neighbors, especially young black men who are exiting gangs, to build their own character and to help rebuild the streets. We build self-esteem and respect for our fellow man, and we build stronger families with firmer foundations. The destructive violence, rioting, and looting of the last few days, however, have quickly erased years of dialogue. When I began New Beginnings Church on the south side of Chicago, the neighborhood held the sad distinction of having one of the nation's highest homicide rates. Over the years, we have changed that statistic. We have built a thriving church with an average of 600 to 750 people at our services each Sunday. We have a community center with a free gym, a career center that offers advice and assistance with interviews, and a high-impact jobs training program that has helped people build successful careers in fields such as construction or landscaping. Our work has paid off, and we have witnessed the power of a changed life. I have seen the excitement of young men who have turned away from violent gangs to embark on their own new beginning and get fitted for construction boots for their new jobs. Where despair once reigned, we have replaced it with hope and opportunity. The riots of this past week, however, have set us back in our ministry work and have done incalculable damage to our community. The physical damage to property pales in comparison to the damage done to our morale. George Floyd's death at the hands of a police officer in Minneapolis sparked understandable outrage. How could another black man have died because of a police brutality? The protests began as a natural outpouring of grief, as white and black Americans were united in their horror at this senseless act. But these protests have turned violent, and the victims of this widespread looting are often the black community leaders and business owners. How does it advance our cause of racial harmony to wreck the black communities? We are still surveying the damage on our streets. All of the CVS and Walgreens buildings were looted. The result is that we no longer have a pharmacy in our neighborhood. Church members are shuttling members of our community out to the suburbs to get their prescriptions and basic goods. The grocery stores were also looted, leaving us without options to purchase local food. The question lingers on many of our minds: will these stores and pharmacies, so essential for daily living here, ever come back? It's challenging enough in normal times to lure stores and businesses to rough neighborhoods. It's going to be far more difficult to entice business owners to set up shop in our beleaguered communities now. Liberal politicians in Illinois and across the country have fanned the flames of anger over the past several years. Their policies and worldview emphasize government as the solution to all problems, except paradoxically when we need police. Our mayor, Lori Lightfoot, has been unable or unwilling to put a stop to the violence in the streets of our home city, in part because she has been unable to offer a strong defense for good law enforcement agents doing the necessary work of making our neighborhoods livable. Lost in this messaging is the reality that the foundation of our society is the rule of law. The tragic killing of George Floyd reminds us that we need better training and screening for police officers. But the vast majority of the law enforcement agents in our nation advance racial equality and help black Americans participate in the American dream. No one, after all, wants to live in an unpoliced and lawless neighborhood. Thriving neighborhoods are able to attract businesses and families precisely because of the rule of law and the police officers upholding it. Lawless neighborhoods, by contrast, are a turnoff for parents and business owners. Violence is rampant in Chicago and has nothing to do with isolated incidents of police brutality. Over Memorial Day weekend, 10 African Americans were shot and killed in drive-by shootings. I've given funeral sermons for victims of drive-by shootings in the past, and those victims' deaths are each a senseless tragedy. On the south side of Chicago, we don't need police stepping back and retreating because of political agendas. The logical extension of liberal police reform is for law enforcement agents to retreat from their duties, but this is exactly wrong and will weaken our neighborhoods. We need justice in the George Floyd case, and we need assurances that these hateful acts will not take place again. At the same time, we need partnerships with the police so they will help us reestablish law and order in our neighborhoods. I've been attacked, been robbed, Life has been threatened. Black Americans deserve better than this. So
wow, that was pretty good.
Yeah, I mean, I think that's really the point that I think that we're trying to drive home.
Yeah. Which is not, and I don't mean to interrupt you, but the stance that we're taking is no different than what we've been saying that the Worldview Bros is about.
Mm-hmm.
And that's that we want to seek the truth.
Mm-hmm.
You know, there's an evident divide here. Mm-hmm. And that's what's so sad.
Yeah.
You know, that we can't come together and really find the justice that George Floyd deserves, mm-hmm. and the other people in police brutality deserve. And it's not a matter of that we're trying to we're going to our side and just you know, just hankering down on our side. No, it's where is the truth? Okay, what does the data say? Okay, what is it? What are we stepping back and trying to find an answer here, mm-hmm. and trying to preserve our country?
Yeah, no, and it's like the pastor said. I mean, what MLK said, that we need to have dialogue, and the thing is, like, what I'm afraid of is that we are starting to live that reality where we all act like independent groups, and that we just have our teams and we have our ideologies, and mm-hmm. we don't mix. Like, we attribute the worst of intentions to political opponents, like to people who have differing political opinions. And that's very sad. Like, it's very sad. It's difficult.
It's like being divorced and living in the same home still. Mm-hmm. Going through a bad divorce, you know, and you're still living in the same home.
Yeah. But again, that's why I think that the problem, I think that we are not going to find any fruit if we think that, oh, well, we just need to burn the system down. That ultimately America is racist, so we just need to reconfigure it. It reminds me of actually like what Chris Cuomo said on CNN. He basically comparing what's happening in the riots in the street with what happened with the Boston Tea Party. Okay, he says, hey, well, look at the Boston Tea Party. So what's so wrong about this looting and breaking of property, burning of buildings that we're seeing on the streets? Like, well, let me tell you exactly what the difference is. The difference is this. When our forefathers did that in the Boston Tea Party, it's because they were starting a revolution. They had decided to make that break. Okay. Yeah. They were essentially declaring war against Britain.
Yeah.
Okay. Exactly. And Britain took it on, you know, and they lost that war, and ultimately the cause was right and the time was right for the Americans to create that revolution. Okay. Mm-hmm. Now, look, if you want to make the case that that's where we are, that we need a revolution, the Declaration of Independence says that. The Declaration of Independence says that if these goals are not met, that if there's a long train of abuses, then it is right and proper for the people to undermine that government and to create a new form of government. Yeah. Okay. Now, I'm wondering, are we there? I don't believe that we're there. I don't believe that that there's a systemic oppression of black people in the country. There are instances of racism. We see racisms very often because they're bad people.
And we mentioned the shockwaves of the Civil War, you know, and of slavery.
Yeah, but so that's the difference, Chris Cuomo. Like, do we want to say that we're there? Do we want to say that we're about to start a revolutionary war? That's the difference. Okay. Yeah. Mm-hmm. As long as we're actually if we believe in the good foundation of our country, like MLK did, then the proper way to initiate change in a regime is to do so peacefully. Yeah. Because that's how you're actually making a distinction. Like, no, I'm not going to tear down the rule of law. I'm not going to tear down those foundations. I want to change certain things, and I want to protest something, and we're going to do it peacefully, and we're going to do it with a clear head. Absolutely. Head. You know, not letting passions get ahead of us.
Yeah.
But also recognizing that there is a connection with my fellow American with whom maybe I have a disagreement on maybe how the police should be run or something like that.
Yeah,
you know?
Exactly.
But if we say that there's no bond of brotherhood, where does that leave us?
Yeah, exactly.
That's what's sad about this. That's what is scary about this. You know, I think that we need to look at this more carefully, more clearly. Mm-hmm. I think that we should take a second look at what the true foundation of the country is. Is our true foundation the principles laid out in the Declaration of Independence? Are we going to say that, or are we going to say that our roots are fundamentally rotten and we just need to uproot the whole thing? I don't think so. I mean, if it is, batten down the hatches, man. I mean, what is this?
Yeah, no,
you know?
Definitely.
So, anyway.
Well, guys, you heard it here.
Mm-hmm.
We have taken this very seriously. You know, we've tried to do as much homework as we can, mm-hmm. because it means so much to us, because we care about everything we talk about on this show. You know, and if you disagree, you know, if you have something that you want to say, you want to speak to, you can email us. You know, we want to have we are willing to have a conversation. Mm-hmm. That's part of our plea. Our plea is that we want to have a conversation with people, mm-hmm. and we don't want to see this looting and rioting, right? Mm-hmm. You know, and I recognize, we recognize that there has been peaceful protesting.
Oh, okay? No, of course, and thankfully, hopefully by now, I think it's died down a bit.
Yeah.
We don't really know what tomorrow's going to look like.
Yeah.
But
we've
seen that this
week.
Even
with the peaceful protesting, I think there needs to be a clear. I think the problem that we're talking about, you know, in the foundation of our country, whether it is systematically racist, you know, or flawed. I mean, well, it is flawed, but systematically racist and should be torn down. Like, you know, I feel like I'm beating a dead horse here now. But if you want to talk about that, okay, just send us an email at theworldviewbros@gmail.com, and we're willing to have this conversation, okay? And we welcome it, right?
Yeah.
You know, what we're not welcome to is just having a yelling fest with people on comments, right?
No.
But we want to have a conversation. So go ahead and just email us if you have a question, comment, concern. Again, follow us on all social media and listen to our past episodes, guys. I feel like I'm really going to be firing these the grams of beauty, man, because I think we just really need some beauty in our lives right now, just to be a unifying force. So again, guys, thank you so much for joining us here. Take a listen to everything else. This will be on our YouTube channel. It'll be shared on all our social media, and also you can catch us on iTunes, Spotify, and Google Play. Thanks, guys, for joining us, and we'll catch you next time here on the Worldview Bros.
Thank you, guys. See you.